We really appreciate it, and we look at today, Friday is really the kickoff as we begin our march to Charlotte. And as Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Democratic Party, we're thrilled about the opportunity to go down and reaffirm our commitment to the President and Vice President. We're also excited to know that we're going to have almost 300 Pennsylvania delegates heading down to Charlotte starting Sunday. And the one thing that I think is important to remember that Pennsylvania has one of the biggest delegations in the entire country, so we're working every day to make sure that our delegates have a great experience. And I think if you know one thing after the last 3 or 4 days, the choice is pretty clear. We're either going to go backwards or we're going to continue to move forwards. And I think our delegation and the delegates that we have here today are going to talk about that a little bit. But we're really, really excited about the team that we have going down to Charlotte, the delegates we have going down. And I'm really happy now that I'm a resident of Philadelphia for the past 2 years to introduce our Vice Chair and Mayor of Philadelphia, Mayor Michael Nutter. Mayor?
Kevin, thank you very, very much, and I'm pleased and honored to be joined by the speakers that you're going to hear from. Pennsylvania, as Kevin mentioned, does have not only one of the largest delegations, but a very enthusiastic delegation, and I expect you'll hear their voices in many, many ways in Charlotte. I want to thank all of you for coming today. I'm happy to be with you, as I mentioned, looking forward to attending this particular convention and participating in a national conversation about the very stark and clear differences between Mitt Romney and President Barack Obama and President Obama's vision for the United States. Last night, much like the entire Republican convention, we saw Mitt Romney's speech offering many personal attacks, but no tangible, new, or important ideas to move our country forward. What he didn't share were his actual proposals, which would take our country backwards. Another $5 trillion in budget-busting tax cuts for the wealthy, paid for by the middle class. Transforming Medicare into a voucher program on the backs of our senior citizens. An end to fuel efficiency standards and tax credits for renewable energy. And deep cuts to student grants and loans, and the rollback of many of the Wall Street reforms that President Obama put in place. With no new plans and evasion about his real plans, Mitt Romney leaves this convention no stronger than he went there. President Obama believes that we need to invest in education and energy and innovation and infrastructure, reform our tax system to create good middle-class jobs, grow our economy, and pay down our debt in a balanced, sensible way. Mitt Romney, on the other hand, believes that we need more tax cuts for the wealthiest and fewer rules for Wall Street. The same failed formula that benefited a few but crashed our economy and hurt the middle class. And so this November, the stakes have never been higher. And whether you're a senior who resides in this city or anywhere else in the United States of America, relying on Medicare, or a parent trying to send your child to college or university or higher education opportunity, what happens this November does in fact make a big difference for you. In Charlotte and all across North Carolina, convention guests will find a state led by innovators who are doing what President Obama is doing all across America, reclaiming security for the middle class, lost by the basic values that have been lost by past leadership, and we need to restore those values that have, of course, made our country the great place that it is. Across the state, the leaders down there are following President Obama's lead again in building an economy and creating an economy that's built to last through education, technology, research, development, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And by opening and closing our convention with events that are open to the public, the convention gives President Obama and his campaign team an opportunity to organize in a critical battleground state, training organizers, recruiting volunteers, and building the organization for that final push to November 6th. So I look forward to next week, to representing the great city of Philadelphia, to stand with President Obama and his team, and to ensure 4 more great years of his great leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Another delegate we're extremely excited about having come down to Charlotte with us is Council President Darrell Clark. Mr. President.
Thank you. Good afternoon. You know, this is a choice election. It's a choice between adopting a radical approach to governing as the Republicans continue to push, or it's a choice between continuing to move forward to deal with real people's needs. As I talk about some of the issues, the reality is I like to localize it because at the end of the day, all things are local. And when you talk about the local implications of the so-called trickle-down economics, what I like to say is that the trickle-down is the following. It trickles down to the point where you no longer have the appropriate resources to educate our young people. It trickles down to the point where you no longer have an opportunity to build affordable housing, so our citizens end up living on the streets of the city of Philadelphia. It trickled down to a point where we cannot keep our citizens safe because of the reduction in the workforce as it relates to police and fire. It trickled down to the point where we no longer have job training opportunities because there continues to be a push to cause government to shrink. And at the end of the day, that means a reduction to wonderful municipalities like the city of Philadelphia. So what I say, when you make your choice on the election day, you have to make a choice about the radical approach to governing or the approach to governing that talks about real people in real time. Because at the end of the day, if we're not here to serve our citizens and we're not here to work with President Obama to ensure that he has another 4 years to move our country forward, then what's the point of being here? So I just want to say, as a delegate, as a lifelong Philadelphian, and a lifelong Pennsylvanian, it's clear the choice is for President Barack Obama to be in a position to continue to move our country forward. And I want to say that we're committed from the grassroots level across the city of Philadelphia, across the state of Pennsylvania, and we look forward to working with our wonderful mayor and our wonderful colleagues in council in the state Democratic Party, and we're going to move this state, we're going to move this state, we're going to move this country forward. So can't wait to get down there with my bells and whistles.
Councilman Curtis Jones is doing great work for the people of Philadelphia, but he's also really doing great work for the Pennsylvania Democratic Party and representing the President of the United States. So, Mr. Councilman, we're excited to have you coming down to Charlotte too.
Thank you so much. I won't take a long time. I'm just anxiously awaiting our cheerleader, our captain, to go up on that convention floor and state Philadelphia's position, our mayor, Mayor Michael Nutter. So we're ready for him to lead the charge. As a delegate, I'm proud to represent Philadelphia, represent the 4th District, and represent the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And I happen to have one of the most diverse districts in the city of Philadelphia. I have the prize-winning hog in the agricultural fair to the most urban youth that you ever want to meet on Market Street. But all of them are concerned about what the direction that can be taken based on what we heard in the Republicans' convention. From farmers to young people looking for jobs, they raised the cry of, are they serious? It's a clear choice, as was stated before. We, the people, or those, the few. And that's our choice. So as been mentioned by our president, trickle down, and we get the scraps that they leave for us, we keep hearing about small businesses in the middle class. Well, every piece of their proposal erodes that middle class. And dare I mention some people that I represent called the poor, not even mentioned in their conversation, as if they don't exist. Well, one thing good about the Democratic Party, and you'll see a kaleidoscope of people, interest, diversity, that goes from one end of this country to the other. And you'll see that in a picture of America in a tapestry that represents diversity. And I'm proud to be a Democrat because of it. I'm going down there to be a cheerleader. But after all of the confetti and balloons are lit, I'm coming back here and we're going to go to work. And we're going to get a victory November 6th. Thank you.
Right.
Our next speaker is not only a great state senator, but traveling the state on a daily basis. I feel like as the weeks go on and get closer to the election day. But really, our next speaker is doing great work for the president. He's one of the president's early supporters in 2008. And we're excited to have this next delegate because he's one of the most colorful and is full of humor. Is going to make the convention a much more funnier experience for all of us. Delegate Dylan Leach.
Thank you. I'm not sure I could have made the Republican convention funnier. That's beyond even my powers. We saw 3 very interesting speeches at the Republican convention this week. One involved the cross-examination of a chair. We also saw what I thought was perhaps the most dishonest speech, followed by perhaps the most empty speech ever given at a political convention in modern times. First, we have Congressman Ryan, who got up and said things over and over again that were demonstrably, provably false. Things that the media had indicated for weeks were completely untrue, had been called outright lies. But he continued to repeat them before a national audience during his debut speech. He said that President Obama had gutted the welfare to work requirement. Every media outlet has said that is false, that is untrue. He said President Obama is responsible for the closing of a plant which closed before President Obama even took office. That obviously is completely untrue. He said President Obama wants to raise taxes on the middle class and had raised taxes on the middle class, when in fact everybody in the middle class has received a tax cut under President Obama. On issue after issue, and the media has said, even people from Fox News have said, this is one of the most dishonest speeches that's ever been given. Now, we've had administrations in the past where honesty didn't matter, and they've all turned into complete disasters. And when the Romney administration, when the Romney campaign was asked about all of these false statements, do you know what they said? They didn't try to defend the statements. They didn't try to say that they were taken out of context. What they said is, we are not going to be dictated to by fact checkers. Okay, that's literally a quote, all right? In other words, facts are not relevant here. We have a message that is divorced from the facts, and we're going to continue to peddle that in our advertising and our speeches. And the American people have to ask, do they want an administration that has admitted, that has embraced fundamental dishonesty as a basic core tactic and value of their administration? That was followed last night by one of the most empty speeches we've ever heard. We had Governor Romney get up, talk an awful lot about having kids, and I have kids, and we're all happy about our kids. But in terms of actually proposing solutions to the problems of America, a completely empty speech, a speech that did not mention Afghanistan, a speech that did not mention Medicare, the most radical plan for Medicare we've seen, in decades. It was not even mentioned in the Romney speech, that plan. We had Governor Romney on issue after issue he said he was going to create millions of jobs. But the obvious question is, how are you going to create millions of jobs? Not one word about how he was going to create these millions of jobs. And so at the end of the day, we really have a lack of substance and a troubling embrace of extremist positions running against President Obama, a president who has accomplished, in my view, more in a first term than has been accomplished in 70 years in America. And so this is my 7th convention, but I have never been more personally enthusiastic about going down to nominate a man, such a good, solid, intelligent man of achievement and wisdom, as we are going down to do in Charlotte. So I look forward to joining all of my colleagues. I look forward to Mayor Nutter's speech. He has promised to mention me twice during his speech. And coming back, and as the councilman said, getting to work to make sure we have a great victory on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And our last speaker to close our program is Secretary-Treasurer of the Philadelphia AFL-CIO, Elizabeth McElroy. On a personal note, I've known Liz for a while, and Liz fights every day for working families in this region, but she's also a leader not just in this region, but also the state. And we can't be more thankful of the work they do on a daily basis for all people of Pennsylvania and across the country. So, Liz, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you, everyone. Yes, I am the Secretary-Treasurer of the AFL-CIO in Philadelphia, and as such, I have a little bit of a different role than the gentleman who all spoke so eloquently behind me, because I don't represent the Democratic Party. But what I do represent are workers. And as Senator Leach just said, and Councilman Clark said, this is a clear election for us. The endorsement of President Barack Obama and Vice President Biden, I think, was well considered, was thought out. Our members weighed in on it, and we did it because we think that this is a difference between two Americas, and we don't want the America that was on display this week in Tampa. We want an America where everybody has a chance, where the poor are not ignored, where workers have a right to training and good jobs and a living wage. And we think that that America can only be found under the next presidency of Barack Obama and Joe Biden. vice presidency of Joe Biden. So on a personal note, this is my first convention, and I am very excited to go down to Charlotte as part of this delegation. I'm very proud to be part of the Pennsylvania delegation and part of the labor delegation. And you know, I think politics is local and politics is also personal, and just, you know, as a woman, as a labor leader, as a voter, as a second generation labor leader, actually, a grandchild of immigrants and a child of teachers, you know, everything that's coming out of the right wing feels very personal lately. And so it does feel like they're attacking me. And so I'm really excited to take the energy to Charlotte and out of Charlotte and to take Pennsylvania for President Barack Obama on November 6th.
Thanks, Liz. Really quick before we open up the questions, you know, one of the things that the Pennsylvania Democratic Party is doing, we're doing these press conferences all over the state. We've done them in Bethlehem and Erie and everywhere in between. So we're really excited. And I think this is just one small sample, but a really great sample of what we're expecting in Charlotte. And the big thing about a convention is to be excited, to reaffirm the commitment we have to the president and vice president, the work that they're doing, but most importantly, come out of the convention extremely strong and realize that this is going to be a sprint, and we're going to be ready. And the one thing for this area, Philadelphia and southeastern Pennsylvania, knows how to turn out the vote, and we plan on doing that, and we're excited to re-elect the president and vice president.